Welcome to Super Simple Security Principles, where you learn how to think about online security, not just which apps to install. I'm Nick Jackson, here to learn along with you from my good buddy and master guardian, Makani Mason. Today, this is episode 106. Yes, sir. Let's go. How to use forwarding email address, how to use forward email aliases. I like it.
It's kind of a mouthful. It's not the most elegant name, I admit.
That said, it's exactly what we're trying to do. It's how to use forwarding email for our aliases that we've created. And so, mouthful or not, I'm pretty pumped because this is something that you've set up for me multiple times now. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. It's been a huge help. And so I'm excited to really dive in because this is something that I see, especially at our workshop, people really gravitating towards and really enjoying, right?
Yeah. So we talked about this in 104, but just to recap a little bit so a forwarding email alias is it's just an email address. It looks like any other regular email address, but you can generate them as needed. You can generate one for every different place. Anytime a place asks you for an email address, every website, every doctor's office, every grocery store, whatever, you can generate a new email address and give that to them, but the email will still reach you. It will be forwarded on from that email address to your real email address without each of those places ever knowing what your real email address is.
Yeah.
So how this works, we're going to kind of walk through how you'd set this up. The first part is you have to pick an email alias service and create an account there. And there's a bunch of options, and we'll talk about those we'll see next week, but sometime soon. But today we're going to talk about one option. It's called 33mail, 33mail.com. And with them, and there's different approaches, but this is the same kind of idea. You would pick a username. So maybe for me, I'd say Makani.
Yeah.
So what all my email aliases would look like would be something at makani.33mail.com. So I could have, I could have frog at makani.33mail.com, toad, whatever. Or one common convention that I use and a lot of people is you identify the place that you're doing it at. So if you're shopping at Macy's grocery store, you do Macy's at makani.33mail.com or Amazon at makani.33mail.com, etc.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
That makes total sense. Yep, absolutely.
And there's all sorts of different approaches, but that's just kind of a simple one. And then when you see the email, it's pretty obvious in the email itself what the intended recipient is. And so anyway, the idea is once you set that up, and generally, actually, you can kind of do it on the fly. So what I mean by that is you walk into Macy's and you don't have to open an app or go to the website and create Macy's at makani.33mail.com. You can just tell them Macy's at makani.33mail.com and it'll work automatically, and then you can block them.
Oh, gotcha.
So in other words, you can have it set up so anything will work.
Right.
Which it sounds like maybe you'd end up getting a ton of spam and really prone to abuse. And maybe once it's widespread enough, that might be the case one day. But in practice, that doesn't normally happen. You might get some, but you can block any ones individually.
Nice.
So anyway, then what happens is, so say I get an email from them and I unsubscribe, but they keep sending me stuff anyway, and they won't, they won't respect my unsubscribe request, then I can delete that alias, I can block it, and then I never will get any email from them again.
Nice.
And even if
Nice.
they sold it to somebody, I would never get any. But all my other emails to every other place and my email correspondence with, humans that I've given out to, like all that is unaffected.
Yeah.
That makes sense?
Yep.
So the other thing is you can reply. So you don't always need this. For a lot of places you don't, but some places you do.
Yeah.
Like I can't think of a good example right now because it's not super common, but maybe a doctor's office, maybe they send you out something and you need to reply back.
Yeah.
It can also disguise it on the other direction. So when you reply, your reply will look like it's coming from, doctor at mcconnie.33mail.com or whatever, Dr. Brown. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it's the alias hiding goes in both directions. You can receive email without disclosing your real email address, but you can also send email without disclosing your real email address.
Nice.
Yeah. Okay, so the other big thing that we want to talk about is before you dive into creating aliases, you have to decide on your organizational approach. Meaning, the way I've presented it here is using a unique email address everywhere. Basically, I don't give out the same email address anywhere. And we'll get into a minute why I do that. But I some people I know don't. They would rather organize it differently. They like to have groups. So they have, say, shop at mcconnie.33mail.com or medical at mcconnie.33mail.com.
Yeah.
And that works, I mean, and you could do that and still have some individual ones. You could have shop, but maybe you want Amazon's itself and you could use Amazon. You can do it however you want from an organizational perspective. Yeah. Some groups, some individuals, whatever. And, from my perspective, organizationally, it really is just a question of whatever works best for your brain.
Yeah.
But the one big advantage of using individual ones, and this is a really important factor to me and why I always use individual unique ones, is the tracking of it and the blocking of it, like we talked about.
Okay.
Because, if I've given out, shop to 10 different shops and one of them starts spamming me and I want to block that spam, then I either have to lose, emails from all 10 of them, or I have to go update my email address with 9 of them. And so that to me is it really limits the benefits you get from using email aliases, in at least from my perspective, how I like to use them, that individual approach. Does that make sense?
Makes total sense.
Okay. So yeah, I think that's all. There's a lot of questions about which ones, and there's some differences between how they offer them. But I think for today, that's all I want to cover. Just the basics of how forwarding email aliases work in general. Any questions or any takeaways?
It was 331, right? It was the one that...
Oh, 33mail.com.
33mail.com.
Yeah.
Shout out to 33mail.com. Appreciate you providing some supports to keep us safe, keep us protected.
Yeah.
So there's my shout out there. Want to make sure they get some respect. And also from somebody that's used it, it's been a very handy tool. So something I would absolutely recommend. Start watching for dates and times for our workshop so you can make sure you pick up on these things and you're, ready to roll. So that said, I loved it, man. What do you got? Anything?
Yeah, I don't know. Nothing's coming to me on Yeah, I'm just excited for what they can do. I think back to our episode on benefits and phishing, and I know it's kind of a crazy idea. It can be awkward in some ways, and I guess maybe my thought from last time comes up as well, because again, this is the second type of alias we've talked about.
Yeah.
But it has some limitations too. I found it to be a little bit awkward compared to the final type we'll talk about, the integrated aliases.
Okay.
And so even though I definitely think this would be a step up, my top recommendation, again, this is like, so you understand what it exists, and if people pitch to you, but to me, it is an inferior solution still to integrated aliases.
Okay.
It's kind of tiered. There's the disposable or short-lived ones we talked about. Forwarding are better, more flexible. They're a lot closer and a lot more similar to integrated than from 1 to 2. These are very small and very niche. This does almost everything the third one does, but this one just does a little bit better, a little bit nicer. But I feel it's important to have walked through it, understand the options, because even if just by contrast, it's like, why are these so compelling? And we'll get to that, right?
Right.
Because they have all the benefits of the first two, but then more.
That's
And
a
so,
really good teaser for upcoming episodes.
yeah, I
That is
know.
a
I know.
really
Usually,
good teaser.
yeah,
Hey, look, we gave you the 2 tiny ones.
right,
What we got is coming. It's going to be better. So
yeah,
stay tuned. I'm pumped. That was a really good episode, though. I really liked it.
good. Are you ready to take action and wondering where to start? Get my Bulletproof My Identity Starter Kit for free. The 7 most vital layers of protection everyone needs. I'll send you one step at a time and help you if you get stuck. Just go to bulletproofmyid.com and enter your name and email, and I will send you the first step. Again, that's bulletproofmyid.com.